He won the Kentucky Derby, and 2 weeks later his right hind leg came apart in more than 20 places. The surgeons rebuilt it. 1 plate, 27 screws, 5 hours. It healed. 8 months later, Barbaro was dead, killed by the leg that never broke. A horse breaks a leg and everyone knows what comes next. You cannot fix it, so it's put down. With Barbaro, that was wrong. The break was never what killed him. The reason sits in every horse, including yours. Today, this is about the horse's leg. The surgeon who rebuilt that leg had given Barbaro a 50-50 chance, and at first he was winning. 6 weeks after the operation, something started going wrong in his left hind leg. His owners spent whatever it took, and the hospital tried everything it had, and the foot kept getting worse. For 6 more months he lived like that, and then in January the same thing started in both front feet. By then he had no healthy foot left to stand on. On the 29th of January he was put down, because nobody could keep him out of pain anymore. What happened in that left hind leg is a hoof disease, and standing on it was all it took. So what is this leg built for? Most would say running from wolves and lions. The fossils say something else. About 11 million years ago the land dried out, and the food grew further apart. A horse had to walk further each day to fill up, and speed did not matter. This leg is built to cover ground cheaply, and the saving happens at the bottom. Feel under your horse's knee. There is no muscle there. That is meant literally. The muscles sit high on the body and pull the hoof with long tendons. In one experiment, horses carried small weights low on the legs, and their energy use rose almost 7%. The same weight on the back cost 10 times less. Down there, every gram counts. The horse did not stop at grams. It threw away 2 whole toes. Your horse walks on 1 single toe, and the hoof is its middle fingernail. Horses once stood on 3 toes, and 2 thin bones still sit there, carrying nothing. A study of 13 fossil horse types worked out what the side toes did. Without them, some ancestors' legs would have snapped while running because those toes carried weight. You can read that this way: nothing spare was lost. The horse gave up a system that spread the load. What is left is a column with no backup. That leaves the question of how a leg with no muscle down there moves, springs. The long tendons down the back of the leg store energy like a rubber band. The horse lands, the joint above the hoof drops almost to the ground, the tendons stretch. As the hoof pushes off, they snap back and return the energy. In the front leg, these tendons do up to 90% of the work, almost for free. That is why a half-ton animal can trot for hours without starving. But a spring that gives energy back builds up the very forces it has to survive. The thickest of these tendons saves the most energy and holds out the least. Everyone who has seen a breakdown describes it the same. 1 step lands wrong, the bone breaks. The trainer of 8 Bells said she tripped over her own feet. At the autopsy, a healthy bone almost never turns up at the break. In one Californian series, 74% had older damage right at the break. Another 19% showed signs of it, which puts the total above 90%. The bone was already failing. A bone like that breaks like a paperclip you bend too many times. The break comes on the 1000th bend, and the cause is the repetition. The race did not cause the break. It ended it. And now the part that killed Barbaro. A horse with a broken leg cannot lie down and wait. No bed rest, no wheelchair. A horse stands around 80% of the day and even sleeps standing up. So it shifts its weight onto the good leg next door, and that is where the trouble starts. Because down in the leg there is no muscle, and no muscle means no pump. The blood only comes back because the hoof gets squashed and released with every step. The hoof is the pump, and it only runs when the horse walks. Inside the hoof, a thin layer holds the hoof wall onto the bone. If a horse stands rigid on one leg for days, that squashing and releasing stops. That layer gets too little blood, and the cells that hold the hoof onto the bone die. And on the inside, the hoof comes loose from the bone. That is laminitis in the good leg, the bill for the first injury. Barbaro lost 80% of the hoof wall on that left hind leg. The same leg kills in 3 different ways. Ruffian in 1975 was one of the best fillies ever. Mid-race, 2 small bones broke right above the hoof, front right. The jockey tried to pull her up, but she kept running until the hoof hung loose. The flight instinct does exactly that, and in seconds a closed break becomes an open one. She came through 12 hours of surgery and died waking up from the anesthetic. In the padded recovery stall, she thrashed as if still running, until the cast broke her elbow. Barbaro's surgery worked, and then standing on the good leg killed him. 8 Bells came second in the Kentucky Derby in 2008. Galloping out, both front legs broke, open right above the hooves. Open means the bone is lying bare, in the sand, on the track. And down there the horse has hardly any tissue, hardly any blood, nothing to heal with. She was put down on the track, because moving her was impossible. If that sounds like a death sentence, it is not one. Today some brakes can be screwed together with the horse standing. Sedated, numbed on the spot through small cuts, and the horse never has to wake up. And that takes away exactly the risk that Ruffian died of. Cold holds off the hoof coming loose in the good leg, ice water on that hoof, around the clock. In 4 of 8 uncooled legs, the hoof came right off the bone, and in the cooled legs, none. This is what Barbaro died of. And when nothing else works, a horse's leg can even be amputated. In selected cases, it stands on 3 of its own legs and 1 artificial leg. Whether that works depends mostly on how healthy the leg next door still is. The death rate on American racetracks is the lowest ever, down 47% since 2009. So what does this mean for your horse? Watch a healthy horse stand, and you will notice something you can never unsee. It never stands still. The weight keeps moving. One hind leg rests, then the other. It looks lazy, but that is the pump. A horse that has stood rigid on one leg for days stops doing that. That is the warning sign. Whatever made it lame, an abscess, a deep wound, surgery, the hoof in the good leg has come loose as early as day 4 after the injury. Waiting and looking again next week is the wrong answer. Call the vet and ask about the other leg. But long before that, your horse has already shown you something weeks earlier. Over 90% of fatal breaks had damage in the bone first. The harmless limp that clears up after 2 days is the bone telling you, quietly. And if you are ever there when it happens, the first minute decides almost everything. Keep the horse calm and let it be stabilized before it is moved. If it moves, the bone can come through the skin, and open changes everything. One thing in this video nobody actually knows, how often this happens. There are 2 numbers for it, and they are 500 times apart. You often read 10% of badly injured horses. A British review of more than 65,000 horses found 0.02% instead. One number comes from specialist clinics, the other from ordinary everyday practice. What is certain is that once it happens, it is hard to stop. The title of this video talks about a design flaw. That is not true. It would be a flaw if the leg did its job badly, but it does it very well. Every gram cleared off the bottom, 1 toe instead of 3, tendons instead of muscles. No muscle at the bottom means no pump the moment the horse stops walking. 1 toe means no backup when it breaks. And the spring that saves energy builds up the force that takes it apart. The horse does not have a design flaw. It has a bill. Next time, look at your horse when it is just standing there. That shifting from one leg to the other is not laziness. That is a horse paying its bill every day and nobody notices. If you want to know what else evolution costs, subscribe. There is more of this.